Oh, boy. Sorry. Oh, boy. Oh, all right. Hey, Rick, what's up, man? You would, huh? Oh, man. You wouldn't shake my... No, of course not. Of course, most people wouldn't shake hands with someone caught, but you're a good man. That's all right. Yeah, no, that's right. But most of us don't do that because we realize more sensitive, more careful now. It is that how germs spread, right? Through touch, and not only would I give it to that young man, Rick, but then if he shook someone else's hand, it would go from that person to that person. Heck, we can fill this whole church with my germs, right? That's right. That's not good. That's not healthy. But that's not the only germs we spread. Not those germs, but the other germs. Conflict. Jesus speaks about how we deal with conflict. What happens when someone wrongs us, someone hurts us? I mean, there's many things we do, but one of the ways we often do also this is someone who sins against us, hurts us. We tell people, do you know what so-and-so did to me? Do you know what the bishop said? Oh, really? And they hear that, and then, well, you have a friend, and you say, you know what the bishop did to Father Tom? And you would tell, and you're spreading. It's like a poison. Of course, you're only hearing half the story, but we're spreading that germs. It's a poison. It's a venom. Because Jesus speaks about conflict, and because, let's be honest, probably all of us don't deal well with conflict. How many you really think, no, they never really taught us how to deal with conflict? Probably didn't have good role models. Forget your parents. I'm sure your parents probably weren't very good at dealing with conflict, right? Probably not. They probably, they argue and get a little loud, a little boisterous. And then sometimes after that, they're this silent treatment. They wouldn't talk to one another. You could feel that tension in the house. You could cut it with a knife. And what would happen then finally, one would have to break down out of necessity. Where's my keys? Or where's the lunch? And the person would have to respond, answer them, and little by little it seemingly get back to normal, back to talking, back to communicating. But it never really solved the conflict. It was just really under the surface. And that's how most of us probably deal with that. And it's probably three main ways. AAA. The AAA, how we deal with conflict. Avoiding, appeasing, or the opposite side, attacking. We avoid, push it under the rug. Don't deal with it. Hopefully, if we don't deal with it, it will magically disappear and it will just go away. Right? Many of us do that. Many of us avoid because it gets messy. Who wants to deal with conflict? Just ignore it. Besides, time heals all wounds. Right? Wrong. Really? You think time heals? Listen, you have cancer. Don't do anything about it. Say, time will heal this. It ain't going to heal it. Time doesn't heal all wounds. You may just push it underneath, but it's there. You just wait till something else happens. It will rise its ugly head again. And remember when you did, it doesn't go away. It sounds nice, but time doesn't heal all wounds. Or the appeasing, which means peace at any price. Therefore, to avoid conflict, I'll give in. I give in. And I give in, I give in, and I give in. And how long can you keep doing that? And finally you say, enough's, I can't do this. I know people who do that. They just simply give in. Why? We don't want to get them started. We don't want to hear them. Just give in. You're not solving the conflict. Or the other way is what we call taking the offensive and we attack. And it might be also a style. So usually it's avoiding, appeasing, or attacking. And so Jesus speaks today is how to deal with conflict. Because unresolved conflict messes up our life. It blocks your relationship with God. Unresolved conflict blocks your relationship with God. He tells us, as you love your neighbor, that's how you love God. You don't love your neighbor, you're in conflict and tension. Well, it gets in the way with you and God. I know this never happened to any of you guys, but I'm sure, actually I heard that some people actually on the way to church would have conflict in the car. Imagine that people argue on the way to church. And they get in church and you sit there real nice and proper, smile, and then get back in the car and pick up where they left off. That's crazy. That's crazy. And Jesus tells us, if you have a conflict with your brother, he tells us, he says, get up and leave and take care of that. But by the way, he said, first leave your offering. He did say that, if you're going to leave church, first leave your offering and then go. So just in case. But anyway, that's how important it is. That is how important it is. So sit there with anger and conflict in your church. You forget it. It's crazy. Yeah. So it blocks our relationship with God. It leads to unanswered prayer. So I see prayer like a pipeline, and if you have all this conflict, this tension, this ill will, it's like clogging the pipeline. Your prayers can't get through. And it blocks your happiness. Unresolved conflict blocks your happiness. Because if your relationship stinks, your life stinks. Okay? If your relationship stinks, your life stinks. Hey, think about the most ideal vacation you ever could dream of. Your dream vacation, wherever that may be, maybe Tahiti or Hawaii, whatever it is. And this you're on your dream vacation, and you're with the person you love, and there's arguing, there's bickering, there's conflict. Did you have a good time? I doubt it. See, it doesn't matter where you are or what you have. If there's conflict, if there's tension, ill will, your life stinks. Your life stinks. So we want to deal with conflict. Well, how do I deal with conflict? No one ever teaches us. We don't know what to do. We sort of stumble along. Jesus gives us methods here. Matthew does in his gospel. Because he speaks about the early Christian community. Because people think, oh, they're Christians, they have to get along, right? Oh, you're a Christian, you shouldn't be fighting, but we're imperfect. Take one imperfect person with another imperfect person, you have an imperfect situation. And what did Jesus say in today's gospel? Where 2 or 3 people are gathered, there are bound to be problems, right? I don't know if he said that, but it's something like that. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there are bound to be problems. And that's how it is. So how do we deal with conflict? First, it says this. You go to the person alone. You go to the person alone. That means I don't start gossiping. I don't start telling what so-and-so said or did to me. No. You keep between you and that person. Don't spread the poison. Don't spread the venom. You go to that person and it says alone. You're with a one-on-one. And it's face to face. You don't write a letter. You don't write an email. It is face, but it's so hard. It's difficult. Yeah, I know it's difficult, but what's with the writing of the letters? Is that intent to heal the situation? Or by writing a letter, is it simply to wound the reader? You say, well, wait a minute. I sign my name. Aren't you a person of integrity? I'm not a coward. I sign my name. It still doesn't make it right. Because it's like, those letters are like airplanes dropping a bomb. What's the person supposed to do with that letter? Your desire is, I am going to wound that person. What does he do with it? Be your son or daughter you wrote to, whatever it may be, your boy. He just takes it and you're probably right. You probably inflicted a wound. Are you happy now? Or, oh yeah? All right, I'll let it back to you. And I'll tell you what I think. And now it's getting worse. So we don't write letters, no email, okay? Even if you're so brave to sign your name, no. It's difficult. You go face to face. Okay, now I go face to face, and this is pretty brave of me. No one else would do this, but I'm going face to face. You know, other people are talking about you, but I am the courage to go face to face. Therefore, this gives me the right to let you have it. Because I'm here in person. I'm not hiding, I'm not sneaking. Actually, the first thing you do when you speak to this individual, whoever that may be, whatever that hurt or wound may be, is this. Before you start accusing, you start confessing your own responsibility, fault in the situation. That somehow you look at yourself and say, what blame do I have? And you confess that first. You say, wait a minute. This person, I don't care if it's 99.9999% that person's responsibility fault. There's always two sides. So you confess your own responsibility. It takes humility. It takes humility to admit that. So you may have to wait till you cool down, but you're not there to accuse. Second thing is that you don't speak in you language, speak in I language, which means I take responsibility for my feelings. I don't say, you make me angry, you embarrass me, you insulted. No. It's, I felt embarrassed. I felt hurt. I felt angry. So what it's saying is that you're taking responsibility for your feelings. Because those same things could have done to someone else and they may not have responded the way you responded. It may not have bothered them at all. So you take responsibility. Okay. And you know something? The greater you are at peace with God, the less things bother you. The greater you are at peace with God, things don't bother you. You take Mother Teresa. People used to insult her, who didn't care for her. She said, my reputation, she said, destroyed my reputation. She said, that's one less thing I have to worry about. It didn't bother her because she was right with God. Okay. And when you speak now to the individual, you speak tactfully. You speak the truth in a love and a gentle voice. I'm sort of more of a avoider. I don't like conflict like most people. And for part of me, I used to almost have this admiration for people who tell me, oh, not me. I go to people and I tell them like it is. I just get it off my chest. Really? Oh, yeah. I don't care. I just tell them like it is. I thought, wow. Anyway, the more I've been reading about this, the author described it as, that's being rude. And you're acting like a jerk. Because you're there face, doesn't mean you give the right to you to explode on somebody. You speak tactfully, gently. You speak in love. You don't explode on anybody. And so when you speak to somebody and you're trying to resolve the conflict, you don't use rage. Rage is used to intimidate somebody, push them in a corner. The louder you scream, the stronger your voice, you push them back. And they fear you. And you'll get your way. But we're not to speak in rage. There's no malice. You don't speak to hurt the other person. We say things simply to hurt them. No labeling, no name calling. No psychoanalyzing, which means, I know why you did that. It's because your mother, you don't know why you do what, we don't know why we do what I do. How do you know what someone else, we do not know what goes on in someone else's mind. You're not a psychoanalyst, so stop it. You don't know. No name calling, no insulting. Often when we argue, it's not over a thing, it's over emotion. Often a feeling is hurt. We are never persuasive when we are abrasive. You are never persuasive when you are abrasive. If you speak offensively, the person will hear it defensively. It's not going to get through. So speak gently, as difficult as that may be. Anyway, so Matthew goes on, he says, well, what if that doesn't work? You did all those steps, as hard as that may be, and he still is not responsive. Well, then you go bring a person or two people to go with you. Now, mind you, when you bring a person or two, you say, well, good, I got some support. It's not people who don't like this individual or they've been hurt by this individual and say, come on, let's get him or let's get her. That's right. We'll gang up on them. We'll put them in the corner. We'll take care of them. I'll give my chance to tell what he or she did to me. No. The person that goes to is really neutral. They're not taking sides. They're simply to hear what takes place so they can verify that what was said, that no one will be lying afterwards. No, this is what was said and this is how it was spoken. Not only that, they will hear the other person's side of the story and say, wait a minute, you never told me this. And then last it says you tell the church. That doesn't really work too well today. Because we're really, in American culture, we're very individualistic. We're on our own. We leave home. We're scattered about. So we don't think in community. We think as individual rights. But back then, they saw everything as community. Your support, your strength, everything was bound together. So if you got kicked out, you're on your own. You're in trouble. And finally, one thing I want to say also to you is this. Because a person tells you they're sorry, doesn't mean you have to go back. But they apologize. I don't have to go back if it's an abusive situation. Verbal or physical, or if there's drinking or drugging. You don't have to go back. You don't have to go back to an unhealthy situation. But they said they were sorry. They apologized. And I'm a Christian, and I'm supposed to forgive, and therefore, no. You never go back unless there's some sort of change on that individual. Because people will say that to you, well, you're a Christian, you got to forgive. You got, no, I don't. I'm not going back to that unhealthy situation until that changes. Okay? But people think this, and that's not the way it is. Anyway, so these are the points that Jesus tells us how to deal with conflict, as uncomfortable as that may be. I mentioned Father Frank's birthday is tomorrow. There's two main things I learned about Father Frank. One is this. He carries one of these bottles with him. I go to a restaurant, he takes the bottle out, and he starts washing his hands. Hanging out with Father Frank is like hanging out with Monk. No offense, really. He's very, very careful. He gets nervous touching menus, doorknobs, handrails. He won't shake hands. He's very, very careful. And that's, I learned something about germs. I think it may be a little too much, but anyway, I learned something. And the other thing about this I learned from Father Frank, when he first started coming here, permanently, when he moved, he said this when he knocked on my office, came to my office, said, I learned during my time as priest is that you got to communicate. You have to talk so there's no misunderstanding. And so he sat down, he began talking to me. It was no big thing, it wasn't any major thing, but he began to talk to me. So I realized if we don't talk about it, we don't communicate it, there's misunderstanding, there's hurt, and it leads to worse problems. And so he says, I believe we have to sit down, you have to talk. I sort of knew that, but I forgot it. And he reminded me, before things get out of control, you go to the person, communicate, you talk. So that's what Jesus tells us. So I ask you to work with this. If nothing else, if someone hurts you, don't spread those germs. Don't spread the venom. Don't spread the poison. It's between you and that individual. We don't avoid, we don't appease, we don't attack. We speak the truth in love. God bless you.